This is Modern Persian Food,
a culinary podcast for today's food enthusiast.
We talk about classic Persian flavors,
modern recipes,
and embracing culture and identity through food.
I'm Bita.
And I'm also Bita.
Welcome to our show.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode number 107 of the Modern Persian Food Podcast. Today, we have a special guest, Candice Walker, joining us from Proportional Plate. And we are super excited to talk to her today. We are going to be deep diving into an ancient philosophy of warm versus cold foods. Garmi versus sardi, and how that influences our body and the foods that fit into those categories. Candice has a great food blog. She's a recipe developer, culinary instructor for both virtual and online cooking classes. She does lifestyle and design work. And she also has a 6-part series for beginners to learn Persian food. And personally, I can't wait to try her zulbia recipe. I'm here with Bita, my co-host Bita, as usual. And welcome, Candice June.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Bita June and Bita June. It's so exciting to be here and be a part of this amazing podcast you two have created.
We're so happy to have you. This is a topic of great interest. If you are of Persian descent, as we are, or have any connection, you may have noticed the sort of obsession with digestion and what foods you're eating and how they can affect your body. And we don't talk about it that much anymore. So I'm really happy to talk about it today.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's something that our mamanjuns and our mamans, they always bring up like, oh, don't mix those two together, or, oh, you need to eat this because you're feeling like this. And we sort of brushed it off as kids. At least I know we did in our family. And now as an adult, I'm seeing how important the impacts of listening to that ancient wisdom is.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. So would you just take a moment for our listeners and just give a little bit of your background and why you're the expert on this topic?
Yes. So I have done a deep dive into Iranian and Persian cuisine as an adult. It's something that has helped me connect to my family and my culture, especially, living and being born in the United States. There was a huge push as a kid to assimilate and be as American as possible. And I think as an adult, for me, sort of flipping that back and wanting to make up for all that lost time of the beauty that comes from our culture and like wanting to learn more and more about it has pushed me to, talk to my relatives and my grandmother and dive into like, how can I use the knowledge from my ancestry and all this beautiful wisdom that, didn't necessarily come up as like an important teaching growing up, but was definitely present in my life. It's like, I wanted to understand more about it. So I did a deep dive and it actually came up for me. I quit my job a while ago and traveled around the world for a year with my partner. And it started coming up actually in other cultures.
Oh, wow.
When I was in India and when I was in China and seeing that there are these other cultures that were doing things that were, little bits of knowledge and wisdom that my mom and my mamanjun were teaching me as a kid. And I was like, oh, there's something bigger here. So I started to just investigate it more.
Oh, so cool. I find that it's so hard for me to describe or define it. I want to call it like ancient Persian medicine.
Yes.
But to describe it is so hard for me. So please help us in that regard.
But that is what it is, right? In Indian culture, it's a part of Ayurveda, which is their medicine, right? And it's also part of ancient Chinese medicine. It's like connected to the belief that their bodies have this life force and this chi, right? And the imbalance in that chi causes these ailments. So it actually is Persian medicine. I think you described it perfectly.
Oh, good. I meant like the technicality of it. Like certain foods warm up your body, but other foods cool down the temperature of your body.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and get started.
Let's start with hot foods. How about that? What makes something garmi, right? Just generally speaking, it's usually dry foods, things that are salty, things that are sweet. Those are all things that help improve digestion and circulation in your body. So these warm and usually cooked foods tend to be more easily digestible. And, for example, if you ate too many garmi foods without the balance of the sard, it would result in the inflammation and digestion issues.
Oh, okay.
So some examples are things like all the dried beans, like kidney beans, lentils, the nuts, garlic, coconut, onion, turmeric even, and ginger. So these different foods are all considered garmi.
Okay. I haven't heard it described that way. So it starts in its original form as kind of dry, but it needs to be cooked.
Usually, those are just different classifications of foods that tend to be in that garmi category. So it's not always something cooked, right? So cinnamon, rosemary, like vinegar, even coffee is considered a garmi food as well. Chicken is a garmi food, which, meat would be a sardi food. So it's not necessarily whether it's cooked or not. It's like what this food does in your body.
Oh.
So is it helping improve that digestion and that circulation, or is it, helping you feel, cooler or heavier? So it just depends on how it's interacting in your system.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Do you believe that this is true for your body? I know everybody's body's different. Like, does this philosophy work on your body?
Yeah, absolutely. I do believe that everybody's body reacts to these foods differently, and everybody's body needs a different balance of these foods. So some people, they tend to need more garmi foods, and other people tend to need more sardi foods. So I think it varies from person to person, but the concept of needing the balanced proportions to create a harmony in your body, I believe is true for everybody.
So take a Persian dish like, let's say, fesenjoon and horb and sabzi. So do you have to kind of break down the what's inside and what would you need to eat along with it to have good digestion? I know everyone's different, but in general.
Yeah, so lucky for us, most Persian dishes, the classic ones, are already balanced. So fesenjoon is a great example. You have the garmi chicken and walnuts and the sardi pomegranate molasses, and you eat it with the rice, which is also sardi. So it has that balance already. And the same with garm sabzi. You have the sardi cow shoulder, with garmi kidney beans, onions, and dried limes. So we're lucky in that our foods are already doing this for us. And if you think about other cultures that have this concept, like Indian culture with their Ayurvedic medicine, they have, these curries that are balanced with, the spiciness in that curry, which is a garmi property, is balanced with things like coconut milk, which are cooling. So these cultures are already doing that for us in these wonderful dishes.
Yeah, that's actually like a really special point about Persian food, that's all been factored in to like the balance, in the example of the fesenjoon, that can be such a rich dish. And then it's kind of cut with like the acidity of the pomegranate that really helps balance it. I think maybe like the condiments, the sides that we eat with the food also help. We do have like a lot of like yogurt, which, is a cooling thing, and maybe the fresh herbs cut sometimes the really rich ingredients that we have. So what are some examples of cold foods, and what happens if you have too many cold foods? Sardi.
Yes. So some of the properties that are associated with sardi foods are oily foods. Things that are sour or bitter are usually sardi. Also foods that make you feel heavy and cold, thinking like, you eat cucumber to help cool you down on a hot day sometimes, are all things that are sardi. And they're also just as important as garmi foods. They provide a lot of more nourishment and strength to the body. And too many sardi foods out of balance with garmi foods would result in circulation issues usually and things like that.
Wow, interesting. I've heard that people like by having like too many dates, too many ginger candies, you can get garmi. So then supplementing it with like cucumber or rice or yogurt.
Or Shirazi salad.
Yes.
That's always got to be on the table, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Talking to my people here.
Exactly. Yeah, it's so funny, but I just feel like the conversation, as Bita pointed, about digestion is actually like a big thing in Persian culture. I don't know if you guys have experienced or not. When you're like in a Persian gathering, or maybe it's like maybe the older generation or not, but like digestion just comes up. And people are like talking about like, don't eat too much of that. You don't want to get diarrhea.
Right.
It's so funny to me that like, it's just such an open topic of conversation. Do you guys experience that ever?
Absolutely, yes.
Yes, for sure. And also just that like food is always the culprit, at least in my family and the
Mhm.
grandmothers and so on. Is like someone could have a little cold virus or an allergy, and it's just like, what did you eat today?
Yeah.
That's like the first question. Okay, what did you eat? You know?
Totally.
So, what are some things that we can do to make sure that we're having a balanced meal or balanced food so that we don't kind of deal with some of the ailments of having too many garmi versus too many sardi foods? Like, what's a good way to balance it?
Well, I think the first most important thing to do is to learn how to listen to your body, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a stuckness, an unexplained sweating, constipation, cravings, all of those sexy things, and learning how to notice them. And I think we notice when those things happen, but we don't pause to react and respond to them.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important to first learn to listen to what our body's trying to communicate with us, because a certain balance of garmi and sardi for one person might not be right for another. You'll see that one khala at the table who's like eating a bigger portion of Shirazi salad versus someone else who needs the more garmi foods, So it's like every person needs a little bit of a different ratio. So it's the most important thing you can do is listen to the cues that your body is giving you, which I don't think most of us take the time to do.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So once you do that, then it's that mindfulness of like what's going in your dish, Am I needing more, cooked vegetables versus raw vegetables? Am I needing more garmi versus sardi? And then you'll get to learn what your body wants, because all of our bodies are different.
Absolutely.
And our bodies react to those foods differently. And so I think that's really the only way to do it.
Yeah, I feel like we're really quick to turn to different medicines or different treatments to deal with some of this stuff that maybe if we, to your point, just took a step back and evaluate our whole selves and how are we really feeling would be a better way to approach it, I think. And also, like, if you have too much garmi, your face can break out, your body can feel whatever. So, like, if we take a look at the bigger picture and see that maybe our eating is a little bit out of balance for our bodies, then maybe we can combat these ailments that we may have in a more natural way.
100%.
And it sounds like they've been doing this for centuries. So,
right.
Aside from, consulting with our great grandmothers and so on, are there any resources if our listeners kind of want to deep dive into the Persian philosophy? Where might they go? Do you have any resources on that?
Yeah, I have some resources that I've linked to on my post about garm versus sard foods. I also have lists of examples of garmi versus sardi foods and recipes that already have the balance that people can try and just sort of see how that goes for them. I've linked to resources, but the reason this article lives on my website is because I was researching this and I couldn't find great resources. So
exactly, yeah.
I think right now is the time if you are Iranian, to connect with your family, your grandparents, your great-grandparents, your aunts. Just ask questions. And I think that's a big part of what I've been trying to do with my blog is to take all of this knowledge and make sure that it doesn't, die with the previous generation, and make sure that this information lives on. So as I continue to find resources, I will add them to the post. But, this exists because I couldn't find that, unfortunately. So if you all have anything, I would love to hear about it.
Yes.
This is a topic that we've, from the beginning, have kind of had on our list of where could we find more resources on this. We thought this was a great opportunity to just have our listeners get more information, hence why we asked you to be on the show to talk about this with us and our listeners. And I think that's a really beautiful point to just, if you're Persian, if you're lucky enough to have the older generation still in your life, why what a great way to connect with them. I know it's hard sometimes with people who have, older family members and like, what do you have to talk to them about? I'm sure that people run into that struggle all the time. And I think this is like a really great topic, the idea of garmi versus sardi, or just Persian food.
Even Persian superstitions,
Yes.
That came to my mind too. That's another topic that we're definitely going to cover.
Good.
So this has been super helpful, Candice. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show. Where can our listeners get that guide and also learn about you and your recipes?
Yeah, you can find me at proportionalplate.com, and you'll find me at Proportional Plate on TikTok, Instagram, and Pinterest.
Also, we'll link to all of those in our show notes for the listeners for a quick click away. As you know, we have a segment at the end of our episodes, which is called Ask the Beats, where we have listeners ask us questions. And since you're on the recording today, if there's a question or anything that you have, Bita and I are happy to answer that.
Yes, I would love to hear about a moment on the podcast specifically for each of you that was this, aha moment for you personally, whether it was from a guest or from each other or just from the research you did for a topic. What was this like moment that you either had an aha or maybe it just opened your eyes to something in our culture that was really special for you?
Bita, do you want to go first? Do you have something in mind?
Well, I talk about this a lot. What connect the dots for me was an episode that we had where the topic was the medicinal properties of Persian spices. And we had an expert on our show, Dr. Mahtab Jafari. She is a research scientist and she's worked for 20 years in a lifespan lab. And her class that she teaches at UC Irvine is called Life 101. Well, we covered Persian spices, and two that really stuck in my mind and makes so much sense were saffron and rose, if you consider rose to be a spice. So there have been links that saffron can be a mood enhancer and sort of affect you in an anti-anxiety way. And so I'm like, okay, we love rice, we love saffron, we love the tahdig. This makes perfect sense. The other one is rose, which I've been obsessed with. So the scent of rose also has been shown to have mood lifting properties. And so, I've just been sniffing the rose.
Yes.
Grandmothers used to keep it in their purses. And we actually had a rose episode as well, where we talk all about rose. Those were huge, just mind-blowing facts for me that kind of connected all the dots.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, so that little vial that Bita is sniffing, rose oil.
I'm just like sniffing it all the time. Like my grandma used to do it. Yeah.
That's so cool. I love that.
And I give it to others.
Good.
Yeah, I share with my friends.
I love that.
Awesome. If I had to pick a moment in the podcast where it really all clicked and it all kind of felt like, okay, this is where I need to be and what we need to be doing, is Persian Thanksgiving episode. We have a lot of pride about all the different topics that we've covered. We've kind of like run the gamut of like specific ingredients versus broader genres of ingredients and like dishes, and also how we use our culture and blend it in like a cross-cultural way with our families and with our community. I was born here, grew up here too, and I have always celebrated Thanksgiving. It's my favorite holiday. And just the idea of bringing everyone to the table and bringing a mix of foods. If you see my Thanksgiving table, you will see a lot of traditional elements. I always like to have a big turkey there. There's always the big stuffing / dressing on the table and, a lot of things. But I love being able to use ingredients that will span different cultures. So aside from like a traditional green bean casserole, I love using green beans in like a lubia polo and having lubia polo on the table as well. We've talked about like cranberry polo or just like blending of the cultures. I've always loved doing that. And I think the podcast as a platform to share that with other people has just been really gratifying, and being able to like kind of bring everyone along. Like, this is a holiday in America, but bringing in a Persian influence, and let's all be thankful together. So I think that the Thanksgiving episode is like one of those that really kind of fulfills that area of like, this is why we're here. This is what we're trying to do. We're trying to just encourage everyone to bring your culture, wherever culture you are, to the table. Let's eat together and share and bring positivity and light to each other's lives.
Wow, that's so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing.
Absolutely. Well, Candice, thank you so much. Bita, thank you so much. This has been really great. Thank you for helping demystify garmi versus sardi foods. We'll link to your site, and this was a really great pleasure.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This has been a pleasure talking with you both.
Thank you. Until next time. Bye.
Bye-bye. You've been listening to the Modern Persian Food Podcast with Bita and Bita. Thanks for spending time with us. If you've enjoyed what you heard today, consider telling a friend or giving us a good rating. You can subscribe to our show for free on your favorite podcasting app or find us online at modernpersianfood.com or on Instagram for the recipes and information we talked about today. We'd love to hear your thoughts and see you next time.